Hi everyone, in this video I want to talk about my tips for surviving in Dayz. Now, this is going to be subjective to how you want to play the game. There are many different ways to play the game, but I'm going to go through a small list here while we watch some gameplay I had, just another session of getting started. Here I'd already found an axe, and I think I might have already found a pistol. You can see I think the server I'd just come from was dark, so I had a glow stick going. But don't need that now, so get rid of it pretty much ASAP. It's good for when you're starting out in the dark, but as you can see we've still got no food, no water, and I'm cold, and we've got the starting outfit, so I thought this would be a good point to sort of show for yourself how to get started in this game. Now, number one, you want to go and check out a map called iSurvive. The iSurvive map has all the maps of, say, Dayz on it, including all the modded maps. But the big one here is obviously Chernarus that we're using. That's the one you'll probably end up starting on, so that's what we're going to use. Now, you're going to want to make yourself familiar with that map. If you're not very good at map reading, it shouldn't be too hard to figure out, but I used to do orienteering and things like that, so it took me, I would say, about a day or so to get properly familiar with my bearings in north, south, east and west. A compass goes a long way, but the map is pretty laid out, so you want to generally start out and try and see if you can figure out where you are using landmarks like, say, barns and power lines, the shops, the water taps, that sort of thing. The water tap is going to be your biggest thing you want to look for at the beginning, because like here we're thirsty, we're hungry. And generally where there's a water tap, you'll find other things to go with it. So the water taps can be quite hidden, so this is why it's kind of essential, particularly if you want to learn the map. This was a small area I'd been to before when I first started playing the game, and I found this by chance. And you can find, obviously, lots of things in the game by chance, but the map definitely helped accelerate my experience in this game. So yeah, use it, learn it. It's a great tool. I've always usually got it open on my computer on a second tab, and I can just check it to see, you know, where to head to next, what loot areas I want to go and see, and what to avoid as well. But what we need here is we need food, we need clothes, and ideally here I'm going to add in, we need to keep ourselves hygienic. Now, big way of doing that is not eating, say, rotten food. You don't want to make your character sick. I'm not going to go into too much detail about that. All I'm going to say is you need to learn how to not make that happen, and ideally just avoiding saying rotten food, being too cold, bandaging yourself with, say, a dirty rag. You always want to have disinfected rags, but I'm not going to go into too much detail on that particular side of things. Ideally, you just want to keep your character safe and hygienic. And I say the big thing you really want to find straight away is a knife. I don't know why I'm trying to pick up the barbed wire there. That's not something we really need right now. But as you can see, I've aggroed a load of zombies, more than I can take on. So the best thing to do here is to hide. Now, something that's helped me is my mouse has got a clutch paddle on it. It's got actually a few different buttons extra on it, but it's got a clutch paddle, and I can change that paddle to be pretty much anything I want in the Razer software. I've got this paddle, and I had it a long time ago for, say, Naraka, Blade Point, and a few other games. The paddle for me has been F. And so for this game where F is, I'm used to using E as my my action button, if you will. And in this, it's a lean system like in Rainbow Six Siege, and that's, I guess, preferred to use Q and E for the lean system. So what I have done is I've used it as F, and I'm not always familiar with personally when I'm moving around, running away from zombies, hitting F consistently. I'm not so great at doing that just randomly to open doors, and sometimes you can mess it up. So having this clutch on the mouse for me, just to press F as I run around, I can keep my fingers on the WASD, then that works very well for me. So what we've done here is we've grabbed some bark from a tree, and I've grabbed a long stick from a bush using the hatchet, and then turned it into short sticks. And what you have to come over here and do is place one of them, doesn't matter, one of them in the fire, and then you have to place the other. So we put 2 sticks and 1 piece of kindling in the fire there, and then we've kept 1 other stick, so we managed to do 2 bits of bark, and that bush gave us 3 sticks. So you put 2 sticks on the fire and 1 piece of bark, and then keep 1 piece of bark for yourself and 1 stick, and then scroll down when it gives you the prompt, and you can create a kindling set or whatever it's called, I don't know. And basically you can light the fire with that, and that gets your first fire going. And right now, so we've got the heat buff, we're not cold anymore, but we're still not in a great spot. So you can see I've got all the zombies on me here. You've got to kind of wait until they kind of calm down a bit, try and lead them to one side of the building like I did there, and then escape the other side, give yourself a bit of a train. I found this is too much to handle, so again I've just got to go and hide. You can't take them on. I have a pistol, but it's still, you don't want to make too much noise. My first thoughts were there's someone potentially else here, but it's not really a big deal at this point. You're just starting out. So you just came in there, lied down, didn't make a noise, and wait till the zombies de-aggro, and we'll move on because we desperately need to get some food here. So as we go back out, the zombies are hopefully chilled out a little bit here, and the first thing I see over there is a chicken. I think we might have heard it before. But this is where we do a bit of a sprint around running after this thing. Your luck may vary. That should have really hit, but it didn't. So you just have to play catch the chicken a little bit here, but you could shoot it. It doesn't really matter. But you need to get the chicken. The chicken or an animal is kind of a godsend at this point in the game, and usually they do spawn in when you need them. You've just got to keep an ear out for the clocks, or particularly the cock that's going off usually in the background. Got it. It's his skin and quarter, and you can use that again with any bladed item. If you need a knife and a short throw, you can usually find 2 rocks to put together, or if your knife, you've only got 1 knife here, so you can take the bones from this chicken and combine them with a rock, and that will give you a bone knife, and they're pretty good. That's something I didn't learn until later in the game. Ideally, you should be able to find a kitchen knife or a hatchet here or something, but so the problem I've got now, we've got the chicken, but we've got bloody hands, which isn't ideal. You're going to get sick if you eat anything with those. So the first thing we need to go do is straight away wash our hands. You could do that with a water bottle if you've got water on you, or you have to go and find a tap. Not the biggest deal, but so like here, there's no time to really run away. Try and be stealthy here. That zombie's on the roof, thankfully, so he's not gonna bother us too much. Check the cars for loot. Always got some of the best loot inside the cars. Sometimes it's hidden behind a closed door. And basically, the well, it will give you a prompt to wash hands. You just want to do that, and then right here, we need to obviously take a drink. Now this takes a while. You want to basically drink here until your stomach is full, and it will give you an icon in the bottom corner. It will take a few minutes, just like it does to get the heat buff from a fire. So it's always a good idea to look around. So there we go. After I've cut this here, but we got the stomach is full icon down there in the corner. So once we've got that, we can move on again, and our character's hydration status will carry on going up. It's ideally best to stay around that tap for a little while at the beginning here, just to carry on looting around the area, and luckily we found a water bottle there. Now first thing you need to do with this immediately is empty it. Look down on the ground and it will give you a prompt to empty. You want to empty that water bottle because there's a percentage chance the water in there will make you sick. So, and as I just stated, I don't know if I'll keep the audio on, and I haven't found any clothes yet. We've been very short on any items of clothing to find. We're stuck with the starting stuff. Not the best idea, but it is what it is. So, kind of like here, we're not really got much time to lose. We need better clothes. We've got the chicken. We've got a water bottle. That's pretty much a fantastic start here. Take these out because they're going to be a problem. You want to try and sort of aim up and hit for the head. That zombie actually had a steak knife, which isn't. You always want to check, see what the zombies have got. Usually got food at the beginning or some useful items you can take on your journey. Now there's a gas canister in there. I don't personally like those, but they are not bad in the game. I personally avoid them, but there is their own techniques for them. If you like that sort of thing, it's way more stealthy. It's probably more subtle. I think they do explode on you though if you get shot with them, but it's not really a big deal. So like there, I found a box of ammo and I found a pate thing. You want to kind of eat this immediately. My character's hungry, so because we've got clean hands. Now, I should have, if we had found some clothes already, cut up some clothes to some rags to make custom. You can make custom bandages for anything, I think, but the ideal one you want to do is hand wraps, and I think you need 2 rags to do that, which I could have made actually using that skirt we just walked over, but I didn't think at the time. But we found a sporter here, instantly put that on my back because we got the box of 2 rounds for it, and it came with a magazine as well. If it didn't have a magazine, I don't know if I would have picked it up, to be honest, but because it had a magazine, we picked that up there. We got this rice. I didn't know what to do with the rice at the beginning of the game, but you could just eat it out the packet, and I think it's one of the best foods going. So again, you don't want to eat too much because my character's stomach is now full again. You don't want to push it too far because I think it'll make you ill. We found more 2, a gas canister, and a leather sewing kit. Now that leather sewing kit's a really good item to find. However, it's only good for repairing your shoes and say your body armor. And at this very early point in the game, we haven't got either. So if you've got a backpack you can put that into, do it. But if not in this situation, I had to leave it. Not something I always do, but I just couldn't carry it. We hadn't found anything. I think there was a zombie running around with a backpack earlier, but it was a little bit too. There was like 5 others there as well, so it's a little bit too hard to find. But you just want to carry on scouting around for food, whether it be fruit trees. You'll get an idea after a while what fruit trees look like, as well as the I Survive map actually tells you what the fruit trees look like. Now I'm using the axe here as like a sort of defensive weapon, but ideally you want to find like a sledgehammer or a baseball bat or crowbar or pipe. One of my favourites is actually the brass knuckles, but you might not find that at the beginning of the game. But you want a melee weapon ideally to deal with the zombies. The hatchet here is not the best thing to use, but I was using it because it's the only thing I had, and it also doubles as finding a blade for something else. So again, there was a pristine shirt there. We could have cut that up for rags. I would suggest that if you're low on bandages, or for hand wraps. Again, I just didn't think at this point. My main goal here right now is to cook this chicken and get some better clothing. And we've actually quite had a good start over finding two different firearms here, but I'm obviously struggling to quite carry everything now. So what we do is I think we reload the sporter here just to a bit of inventory organisation. It's always a good idea to keep stuff in and organised. As we can see, my heat buff has now come off, so we ideally need to, in our current state, we're not finding any clothes, you need to carry on with another heat buff. So this is why cooking this chicken would be a great idea, but I think I knew there was a northern part to this town where I first started playing, and that has some good loot as well. So before, I would use this house because this house has only got one entrance to it, and so it's quite easy to defend. You're raised up, and so if someone does try to come in and ruin your cooking session, you've at least got a chance to defend yourself somewhat. Picking the right house is very essential. I've actually been killed in the same house twice, and it's probably one of the worst houses in the game to be in for defense. I now know that and generally avoid it like the plague. It's the one with many windows in it, ironically, but I think that was just a stroke of bad luck on my part and bad timing, really, in that situation. So generally here we want to sort of try and always avoid the zombies if you can help it. I think they've generally got about a lock-on radius of about 20 meters. You've noticed in the bottom left we've got like a noise meter, so now we're running over, we've got 3 noise. I think if we had boots and say a backpack and things, would actually be on 4, which is very loud. You really want to be on 2 or less for creeping around with zombies, and that way they shouldn't really lock onto you from a too far of a distance. But we're just going to go up to this other part of the town. It's just started raining, so that's a problem. We're going to get the wet status, and we're going to get cold and possibly ill if you don't fix it quick enough. So there's a nice crowbar there. I use that now as a melee weapon instead of the axe. The axes are probably a little bit too bulky. We check in here, we find a drink, take that immediately. You can hang on to it, but it's a good boost of both food and hydration, the cans. So unless you're like top stats, it's always a good thing to just take one of those immediately. There's not a lot in here. Sometimes there's some good stuff in these houses, but now that it's raining, you want to try and be quick about going through looting here, or doing some extra loot before you end up sort of making another fire. Just see what else you can find. You never know if you'll never find another gun or clothing that we need right now. So that's the big agenda. This zombie's got a backpack that we'll have, so I instantly had eyes on that because we need the extra space, and I think it will actually add as a bit of insulation, so I'll keep us warm. That zombie had a tomato, it was edible. And then you want to block by holding back with the melee, and if you hold shift or sprint while hitting it, you'll do a heavy attack. They're two useful items to know in the melee defense, but again, this isn't really too much of a tip. This is just for literally getting started. You'll figure a lot of this out as it goes, and I'm sure there's some more in-depth areas. There we go, found some shotgun ammo. And again, some of these clothing I could have cut up for hand rags, but I didn't. I was just looking for clothing to wear. That was my main focus here. So this jacket's pretty good, even though it's luminous. It's got some good pockets and it's good insulation. So we'll take that straight away. At the beginning here, you need to take what you can get. And this isn't a bad item. This jacket's generally pretty good for me. We'll eat the tomato now because we're still kind of hungry, even though my food status is going up. So this is coming up to the last house, I think, up here, that we're going to loot before we go back down to the other one. Yeah, there's another sewing kit. I can now carry that. So I do again a bit of inventory organizing here. You have to get used to what you used to. Maybe I didn't realize about the backpack. Found a woolly hat. Good job there. It's kind of what you need. Found another pistol, but it was damaged. So because I had one that was worn, I'm just going to take the magazine out of it, and I'm going to leave the pistol there because we've already got one in better condition, but the extra magazine will come in handy, no doubt. And so now with that, we're going to probably check this shed, see what's in there. We've got a wrench. I think it's a useful item for some of the cars and things, but that's literally it. We've got some fruit trees here and a zombie. I just want to check the fruit trees, see if there's anything around there. Now, you could avoid this zombie as the dried fruit is edible, the rotten obviously isn't, and obviously you get fresh fruit as well. And right there I hear another chicken, right in front of me in fact actually, and so I decide we need that. We've got other chicken to cook. We apparently cut from that zombies. We've got to keep an eye on the status, so we're wet, but we're cut on that. You want to fix that immediately like I just did. Now, bearing in mind, you always want to keep an eye out for other players. But it's, you know, you can play all day and never see someone. You can play one day and see 6 people. It can be very varied on this at the best of times. It really does depend on the time you play. Once again, we have the elusive cock. You have to try and do your best to catch the chicken, I'm afraid. In this case, I actually gave up and I think I shot it because I kind of sick of this charade and we needed to get going. So it's all down to your sort of discretion. You know, if you shoot like this, someone's going to hear you. Most likely it's 2-2, so it's not too loud, but still it's going to open you up. It's going to make you potentially vulnerable to one you want to cook. Someone might come in and find you cooking because of the smoke and fire, and because you made that noise with the pistol. So, or rifle, it's all subjective. You've got to be careful. You've got to think sensibly. If you could potentially even maybe move to the next town over and then cook in there if you wanted to be extra safe, but I was feeling quite confident here. This is one of the spawn terrains just north of Cherno, I believe. I will put at the beginning of the map probably where it is anyway, if anyone's interested, because this is a nice little starting town if you're near it. Once again, my hands are dirty. Just quickly check the room here. I don't know what I was quite doing. I think I was coming back here to do some more inventory. Yeah, we dropped the pistol to space, so we pick that back up. And we're going to probably load those magazines up and separate them, so take that out. We found some ammo. And we're just going to load up the ammo for all of that, which is always a good idea, I guess, because you don't want to be held up while you're cooking, for example, and you've only got, say, 2 bullets in your magazine, and let alone it's not even chambered, so you just pull the trigger and it just goes click. That's not the best idea. And one of my first interactions with this game is when I was cooking, someone just walked in on me and it just shot me, which was an experience, I suppose. That was down near Ballotta. Fun times. But like here, we need to get cooking, but ideally, before we do all the drying our clothes and everything, we need to go and wash our hands. So right here, I'm going to gather the logs and stuff. So you want to come up here, get some bark. Again, we need 2. 1 for the fire and 1 to make the fire. So I generally do 2 and a bit circles, because sometimes if you do the full circle, sometimes it doesn't actually give you 1. It's kind of annoying, got to go a little bit over sometimes. Drop this stick down, and then we want to split it again, make some short sticks. Fairly straightforward once you get used to this. You even want to hold that or put it in your inventory. I think I just tend to hold it most of the time and just run to the fire with it. And it'll give you the prompt to place it. These files you might have to look around a little bit to find the prompt. It's a little bit annoying. Yeah, so there we go, to a bit of inventory management. It's up to you, but I kind of like to have my stuff organized in a certain way so it's not too clustered. I like to keep the meat in the pants, I think, for example. That's generally my food area. And then the jacket will be, say, amber and bandages, and the backpack will be like anything else that's essential. So we just placed that there. We've got to place the bark in there as well, and it's given us our fireplace. And now we need to combine for a hand drill kit. Sorry, that's what it's called. I can't remember what I called it earlier. It was the wrong thing. Put that in our hands. Am I going to start this with bloody hands? Well, apparently I am. So basically, I guess at this point, we can't eat, but we can cook, I suppose. So take off all your clothes, ideally, as it goes. And you want to basically get them dried out by the fire. That's how you're going to get rid of the wet status. You've got to be careful doing this. Obviously, it makes you very vulnerable, but this is the only way of drying out your clothes as far as I'm aware in the game. So it's always a little bit nerve-wracking if you're doing this in a very hot location. You know, you want to keep a close eye on your wet status, your clothes. It does dry, there you go. It does dry off very quickly in most cases. You know, like there, we're already drying our clothes, so we can put them all back on. You've got to be careful though, sometimes with this, that you, like now we're in the yellow on our temperature. You can get too hot, being too close, wearing too much high insulation clothing. What that does, I don't really know. I think it just affects your hydration. Your food may make you sick if you do it for a prolonged period. So like here, I prefer to smoke the meat because it lasts longer, or it dries it in many ways, and that will mean you can go further potentially without it going off. Not that there's a chance of that happening, but it just means if you find some tinned food and other stuff, you can pick and choose what you want to eat. The chicken's not such a big deal. And there we go, and I just do a bit of inventory management, so we move stuff over and do some organizing, which again, when shit hits the fan, you want to have stuff organized if you can help it. But anyway, I think that kind of comes to it really. That's you're pretty much set at this point to go and explore Chernarus or any other map in Dayz, and the world is your oyster. And you've obviously, using the map, you can find out the military locations and what's close to you, what town's close to you. If you can find where you are, it helps a ton. And then you can start looking into maybe stashing some items in certain areas of the map and having a little base with some crates, or maybe a makeshift shelter, or even building one, but that's quite end game content, is doing the building, and I'd be very wary of doing that immediately, because so far anything that I've done has been raided by cheaters, and unfortunately the standalone servers do seem to be riddled with cheaters, and my experience has been very varied. I've probably been killed about 70% by silent snipe cheaters in most of my time, and I've had kind of few interactions with people for that. But I've had a few solid interactions with what I feel is genuine players, and that has been fun. So yeah, good luck on your adventures, and I hope this video helped you. If it did, please leave a like, and thank you very much for watching, and I shall see you in the next one. Bye.